everyone, this is your July 2019 reading. Today we're going to talk about the two eclipses that are happening this month in July. We're going to talk about the solar eclipse that is happening on 2nd of July, which gives us an opportunity to initiate something. And we'll talk about the eclipse that's happening on 16th or 17th of July that gives us an opportunity to bring something to conclusion or to fruition. Both these eclipses work in tandem. So we're going to talk about both of them together. We'll go deeper into it because it affects the next 6 months of your life at the very least. And we'll go into your sign at the end of the video. But I'll request you to look at the whole video because I'll talk about how you can look at the past events to figure out what's about to come. And also because anything that is conceived right now, whether you're starting a new business, you're starting a new project, you're giving birth to something, because Cancer is a season of fertility. It is the time when we put seeds for something that is supposed to give fruits to us. That seed will have the property, the basic property of these eclipses. And eclipses bring about fated changes in our life. Some destiny calls come to us during this time. And they could come in form of you seeding something which will have the property of these two eclipses. Before we get into the eclipses, I'll give you a few dates this month because this is the month where we have a lot of things happening apart from the eclipses. So I would want you to mark your calendars with these dates. First date is of course 2nd of July when we have the eclipse in Cancer. This is an eclipse which will be very, very emotional in my viewpoint. It brings about a huge amount of water force, huge amount of emotional force on us. So we got to be psychologically prepared more than physically prepared for it. It gives us the chance to be emotionally drawn to one part of our life so we can sort of be very directional in terms of where we want to go. It tells us to some extent from our intuition where we want to go. So you want to sort of book this time, 2nd and 3rd of July, to check in with yourself, to be available to yourself. Give some time to yourself on these dates. Then we have 8th of July. 8th of July is when Mercury and Mars are together. This is a very, very active yet volatile combination. It can be used very actively to get things done. It can be used to have some amount of combative arguments. So you want to be careful around 8th of July, 1 or 2 days before, 1 or 2 days after 8th of July. Mercury will be going retrograde on 7th of July. Mercury is a planet that rules our business communication, which means that after 7th of July, we will face some amount of fog, some amount of lag, some amount of communication issues. So you want to be a little bit more flexible in terms of being too forceful with your communication around that time, because the full information may not be clear. The third date I want you to look out for is 14th of July. 14th of July and 11th of July, actually from that earlier part of the month, is quite intense in nature. 11th of July is when Mars and Uranus are together and they are in hard aspect, which is great to charge us up to do something different. Mars is in a very good sign, which means our actions are very, very strong. We are very proud, very self-confident, very, very grand in our actions. We want things to happen in a dynamic manner, and we must make full use of Mars being in Leo, where it will be till 18th of August to get things done. And with Uranus, it can suddenly sudden actions could happen which can help us get there. But you want to be careful in terms of driving, you want to be careful in terms of fight, you want to be careful in terms of temper around 11th of July as well as on 14th of July. 14th of July gives us more focus. Pluto gives us power on 14th of July. We have a lot of focus in our actions, a lot of intensity in our actions. We are very ambitious, but we are liable to ego conflicts. This is the month when Mercury is retrograde. Mercury is the planet of business communication and regular communication as well as transportation. Being flexible because new information, a new side of things is being revealed to us is the mantra this month. We will be drawn to conflicts. We will be moved into conflicts which we want to be careful about during these dates. So 8th of July, 11th of July, 14th of July, and I'll give you one more date, which is 29th of July. 29th of July, in my view, would be a more productive shift which comes because Uranus is making an aspect to our ambition, and by that time we have learned more, we know more information, and the changes that come, they come with awareness by that time. At the start of the month though, we are in the dark, so you want to be more careful in the first half of the month. Now let's get into the eclipses which are about to come. There are two eclipses. The first eclipse is happening on 2nd of July and the second eclipse is happening on 16th or 17th of July. The first eclipse is a solar eclipse. Solar eclipse always gives us a intention and the fertile ground to seed something new. Something new has to begin. But this eclipse, in my view, even though will be very emotionally charged, it will only have impact in us down the road. Around, I would say, 29th of October. The method that I use for prediction of eclipses is an old method. It's based on imperial analysis, and I have full faith in my teacher who's not with us anymore, but Robert Jansky, who has given these rules. They were very well tested. So looking at that, the full impact, the karmic event of that eclipse will only come about, in my view, around 29th of October, and it is a very potent eclipse. But only the intentions, in my view, the emotional force that requires to be put to do something is initiated this month there. On the other hand, the eclipse that's happening on 16th or 17th of July, which is happening at 24 degree of Capricorn, is a very, very dramatic eclipse in my view. It's a very active eclipse. It's happening in a cardinal sign, which Cancer is also. So we are liable to do something. It's going to be very, very active. We will take action as a result of things that happen. But more importantly, something will come to head with that. Something comes to conclusion with that. We are required to handle a situation which possibly came to light around 22nd or 23rd of March. So I would request you to go back to your emails, go back to your calendars, look back on 22nd or 23rd of March in terms of what really happened at that time. Did you prepare something? Were you asked to submit something? Was there something administrative which changes your physical reality that happened around 22nd or 23rd of March this month, this year? So 22nd or 23rd of March is where the seed of that eclipse, the first karmic event of that eclipse, might have happened. And the second eclipse, which is happening on 16th, 17th of July, is a very administrative. It changes the fabric, the very framework by which we are running our life, because Capricorn rules the structure, it rules administrations, it rules governments, it rules the countries, the heads of the countries, the boundaries that by which we are living in our life, and that is brought to a change. For example, the 22nd or 23rd of March is when the Mueller report was launched, and the hearing for that is happening on 16th or 17th of July 2019. So something like that, you might have submitted a proposal and that comes to head because something has come to head. We are being pushed to make a choice with that eclipse. That eclipse is a very judgment oriented eclipse, and that, in my view, from this month's perspective, is more eventful as compared to the second or third, where we do not have full visibility. The second or third July eclipse is a solar eclipse. We are putting the seeds, we are emotionally drawn to do something, we are realizing what is our path with it. But the physical reality of that and the karmic event as a result of the second or third of July eclipse will only come, in my view, around 29th of October when we have the nodal activation. But the second eclipse has an urgency to it. The 16th and 17th of July eclipse, something very fundamental to the structure of our life is coming to a head. We will be asked to make a decision with that because there is a challenge to some extent. Something tangible, physical, and related to our physical manifestation is challenged with that. And as I mentioned, the two eclipses work in tandem with each other. The new beginning is very much related to what is coming to a conclusion. We are putting the seeds of something because we emotionally realize that that's our path, and we want to put something to an end as a result of that. And both of these eclipses, they have common aspect. The singular force behind this is Saturn, Pluto, South Node coming together for the second time this month. The first time they came together was in April, again during a cardinal season where we do things, we make changes, we want to shift direction in our life, and they come together every time during a cardinal season because they want us to be proactive with our life. They want us to aggressively go after something. They want us to change the dynamic of our life. There's something in the administrative structure of our life that is not fulfilling us. It could be the rules of where we work, it could be the rules of the organization we are part of, or it could be a restriction in a structure of a structural manner in our career, or a structural issue in the way we are carrying out our life in some way. A karmic weakness is revealed to us in phases, and this is the second reveal of it, asking us to release some aspect of our life which we feel attached to, where we feel comfortable, we feel that this is integral to our existence, but it is truly outlived its purpose and it is not truly us because we have changed, and it wants us to rewrite the rules of our life. And that is the common theme across both of these eclipses, which are fated in nature, which will bring some accelerated events to a head because Pluto wants us to deconstruct what is not real in our life. It wants to reveal the gold, it wants to dig deep and get out the authentic self that we have, the power within us which needs to come out, which might be layered below restrictions, layered below the rules, layered below our own fears and inhibitions to some extent. It wants us to rip the band aid off. It wants us to get rid of, as I mentioned earlier, crap, if I can say, in our life, because the soul is covered in some amount of self doubt or thoughts of lack, or people telling you, taking your power away in some way because they do not believe in you, but you don't owe your life to others here. You're being told that you live for yourself, and this is something where you need to create new rules, new boundaries of your life, new physical structure of your life based on the truth that Pluto reveals itself yet again this month. So some old dynamic will come back to us because it needs to be shown in stark reality to us for us to wake up again, for us to handle this once set for all. The third meeting of Saturn and South Node on 28th of September is happening when Saturn is direct, which means that we need to move forward. We are being given another checkpoint, another reality check here, another major crackdown of what is real, what is not. Something has karmically outlived its purpose, and our role in carrying out something that to some extent is dead is what is revealed to us. There's a weakness in our structure which is shown to us, and there's a deception that we are carrying out to some extent which is holding our power back, that is shown to us. And Ketu removes the fear, it removes the restriction, it removes the reservation, it removes even the delay between what we want and what we have right now. It removes this mental fear of letting go. It detaches us from what we think is integral and so basic to our life because it wants us to see the truth. It wants us to see what happens if we let something go which we think is our reality, but in truth it is just holding our future manifestation. It is holding back where we need to go. So South Node is where our comfort zone is, our habits. And when we have a eclipse, which is a solar eclipse, which is happening on 2nd or 3rd of July in a moon sign, our habits are changed. What goes through a rebirth, when a moon goes through a rebirth, is our habits, our emotional patterns, and that is required. That's why we have the solar eclipse come first and predominantly, because our habits are changed, our emotional life is shifted to some extent. There's a drainage of the old that happens along with that eclipse around 2nd or 3rd of July, when Saturn and South Node meet each other at the time or very close to the eclipse, because we need to change our emotional patterns. What and who we feel secure in needs to change. And a solar eclipse in the sign of Cancer, in the sign of security, wants to infuse a new sense of security in us. It wants us to some extent, if I can say that, laugh at the things which have outlived its purpose, so we can easily detach from them to seed something new. The solar eclipse of 2nd or 3rd of July is happening around 10 or 11 degree of Cancer. 11 degree of Cancer in Sambian astrology is depicted as a clown caricaturing a well-known personality. I think I'm sorry to say that if I'm not saying it politically, but it reminds me of the caricature of Trump, which people are saying they're going to fly during the 4th of July parade. But it's using humor. It's using humor to gain objectivity and independence of mind. We are in a step of deconditioning the past here. We're stepping out of convention here. We're setting out of a social mask to some extent to see the irony of the situation. We are being emotionally, intellectually honest here. We're being told, like, in another representation, for example, of it is a working class father voices some uncompromises opinions at the dinner table, where his wife has cooked the dinner and he's sitting and he says some uncompromising opinions. His wife, surprisingly, expresses a completely different view, but in a humorous way. This is where we are standing up, being honest, even though using humor as a way, but we are standing up. My message to you is ease yourself into this new reality. Sometime laughing at what has outlived its purpose, the old structure, which can be painful in nature, shows you the goofiness and validity of that old structure. It can help you ease into that change. There's a time for rebirth of our emotions, our habits, our behaviors that we are so attached to. And this strong moon of 2nd of July, it gives us great intuition to sense through those emotions and see what we truly want. It's a very peace and quiet seeking new moon and a solar eclipse, where we should give ourselves time in a comfort of our home, in the comfort of where we feel comfortable. If the home is not the area of our comfort, we should go somewhere which makes us feel safe, comfortable emotionally, where there is a sense of belonging, so the truth can come out. So you are in touch with what you're truly feeling. Here you can judge what truly motivates you. It's a very directional new moon. We are not restless here. We are not scattered here. This is the period when we are with who or what makes us feel happy. As Rudyard said about summer solstice, show is over. Now comes the hour of decision. This is a stabilizing new moon. It gives us the opportunity to quiet the outside noise, laugh at the past, release that past emotionally, and have a rebirth of our inner being. Because we are being told very directionally to go in a specific direction and release something that is not ours anymore. And in Cancer season, the focus is always to make you feel safe inside. What makes your inner world, your feelings more comfortable. So we are a bit protective here. We are a bit sensitive here. We want a shell to protect us. When we seek that, we retreat to safety, home, children, parenting, nurturing ourselves, and we need to give ourselves. We have to honor our sensibilities, our sensitivities in the season of Cancer, which we have right now all the way till 22nd of July. We grow more and better in the season of Cancer when we are protected. It's, for example, when we seed something, right? We don't expose them to the harshest of the environments when it is seeded. Cancer is the season when we seed things. So you want to protect yourself and your loved ones in this season. Your children at this point in time seek more attention. Your family seeks more attention at this time, because we are in a season where people seek love, where people want to nurture themselves. You want to nurture yourself. You want to give yourself that attention. The need to grow and nurture is shown, but at the same time, that manifests better if you give yourself a safe space. It manifests better in your ambition. It manifests better in how we go out and do our daily business. So, having a pattern might help you this month, because there's ebbs and flow of emotions. And in the season of Cancer, we have to realize that emotions will be going up and down more than before. So, having sort of a pattern to the day, having a routine to the day, especially if you have a Cancer in your house, like I have a Cancer kid, you have a child with the Cancer zodiac sign or Cancer dominant, having a pattern helps with them. Having predictability of routine will help you. You're looking for deep love here, emotional connection. And this is not just during the time of this new moon. We are in the season of Cancer. So all the way till 22nd of July, we are liable to feel like that, because that's the predominant energy. We are very, very fertile at this time. So the focus is on physical fertility as well as on mental fertility of ideas. We are more liable, though, to give birth to something if we protect ourselves psychologically and physically. When I look at a new moon and a new star, I always look at the star that is influencing that new star, because you want to look at how it will pan out in longer term. If you're initiating something new, if you're putting the seeds of something new this month, how will that turn out? So the influence of the star tells us the element. And this new moon or the solar eclipse is coming with a fixed star called Sirius. Sirius is the brightest star in the sky apart from Sun. Ptolemy said that this had an element of Jupiter with a touch of Mars, which means that it has expansive, successful qualities to it. It is known for fame, success, expansion, but it comes with Mars. It is a hot star. It comes with the heat. It is sort of a blast of energy that can burn your fingers or help you achieve levels that seem impossible. It is a burning desire of a star. So you would see yourself drawn in a dramatic way to something with it, which will require some amount of sacrifice. This is known where sometimes people had to give up a large part of what they think is core to them to create something which is immortal in nature. For example, Abraham Lincoln, who strove for freedom of the people, but he had to pay a huge cost for it. But he became immortal. Mundane becomes sacred over here. You think that you're taking a small step, but for the collective, that could mean something way beyond mundane. So the effect on the collective is extremely large of the small action of an individual here. So something that is being initiated right now, it might look very strong. It might have very strong visibility. It's like the anything that we see, it looks small at that stage, but the collective impact when it shrooms up is very different. Your actions have profound impact beyond you expect here. So you want to choose with care. You want to choose your direction with care. You want to put your seeds with care. I would choose a day or two after the eclipse to put the seeds and the intentions of something that we are planning to start. And in fact, right after the eclipse of 2nd or 3rd of July, we have a Yod forming. Yod is a finger of God. It gives us the opportunity to create a roadmap of what's about to come. We want to create a plan. We should do it under a Yod, because it is a sort of a blessed time to do it. So 4th, 5th of July, I would choose to plan this new start. to plan what's about to come. And that plan will undergo changes because we have Mercury going retrograde from 7th of July, which means that the plans need shifts, plans need change. Our mind will be changed because a new side of the things will be revealing itself to us when Mercury goes retrograde from 7th of July to 27th of to 31st of July. So we are looking at a period when we will be looking at a very different side of things than we have seen before. From 7th of July to 21st of July, we will be receiving this new information, and after 21st of July, you start creating the new plans. So choose 4th, 5th to create a blueprint of what you want to do. Receive new information from 7th to 21st of July, and then act on that new information in terms of creating new plans from 21st of July all the way till 31st of July. And after 31st of July is when you would be better placed to communicate it officially, to present it, to go out when Mercury is retrograde. When Mercury is direct after 31st of July, August becomes the time to sort of present the details. After you have reworked it, you have recreated, you have gone to the details of it, then sharing it with the world makes more sense in my view. The other thing I like to do is I like to look at the history of the eclipse, because once you see your own timeline of the eclipse, you pretty much are able to figure out the themes of this eclipse. Eclipses are repeated every 19 years at exactly the same space as they did before. They follow a metonic cycle, so we can actually predict them quite accurately. So you could look at back in July of 2000, when we had the exact same set of eclipses 19 years back. Now I know 19 years is a long time to go back to, but if you're old enough, or if you remember very well, you can look at July of 2000 and see what started, what were the karmic shifts which might have taken some time to come about. They might have fully rolled out only by April of 2001. So look at what was seeded in July of 2000 and you might see something similar right now. Since it's too old to look back to, you can look at 2009 end as well, because the opposite eclipses, which means that we had a lunar eclipse where we are having a solar eclipse, we had a completion of something where we are seeing a new start, happened at on 31st of December 2009 and 11th of January 2010. So you can look at maybe start of 2010, what were the karmic shifts that happened in your life out of the blue, which required certain urgent changes in your life. For me, for example, we relocated at that time, and it happened within the matter of 2 months. A new job, a completely new place of living, my life completely changed with it. So, and I'm a cardinal sign, so it affects, of course, the cardinal signs in a very dramatic manner. It's a life milestone kind of a thing. If you're a Aries, you're a Cancer, you're a Capricorn, or a Libra. So, looking back at end of 2009 or start of 2010 would be appropriate for you. Also, from a global events perspective, we can very accurately most of the time predict the eclipses because they follow a Saros series, which is known for mundane events, which are global events that are happening. And this set of eclipses are part of a Saros cycle 127, which happened last in October 2001. So the eclipse happened exactly in June, 21st of June 2001, but the impact of that, the karmic event of that, the nodal activation of that happened on 7th of October 2001. We all know that was the time of war in Afghanistan, and that was the time when the Office of Homeland Security was created. 7th of October 2001, when the nodal activation happened, the precise date by the astrological books that the nodal activation happened, that was the day the war on Afghanistan was declared. It was the date on which the Office of Homeland Security was incorporated. So the first solar eclipse, which is happening on 2nd or 3rd of July, which will get activated on 29th of October 2019, in my view, the seeds of something that is planted right now could result in something similar in terms of the global events, in terms of certain actions taken out of security, out of protectiveness on 29th of October 2019. But we'll see the initiation of that, which comes in the line of people trying to protect their borders, people trying to protect their people, because Cancer is a sign of protectionism. You want to protect yourself, you want to protect your tribe, you want to create the right kind of boundaries around that. And as we know, this is a very significant eclipse for United States because it's happening around the time of the birth of United States, which is 4th of July, which is around the 10 or 11 degree of Cancer where this eclipse is happening. It doesn't mean that the exact same events happen, because all the arrangements are not exactly the same. But yes, there is a similarity in the veins of the way things happen. I'm sorry to say that, but I have to tell you the past in terms of the global events as well, how that panned out. And I don't speak it on the basis of the last one event. There's a whole series, Ceros series. If you Google up, it's like very well established series of eclipses which physically happen. It's an astronomical thing to happen, so you can look back at those cycles which repeat physically every 18 years and 11 days, and all of them have resulted in an activity like that. We can go to 11th of June 1983 eclipse, which happened in the same series. The nodal activation of that happened on 21st of September 1983, and many of you might have been born at that time. That was the time when Gulf Air Flight 771 crashed into UAE due to bomb explosion, and Korean air flight was shot down by Soviet Union, and drought came about. Conservative government was constituted by Margaret Thatcher in UK. So for United Kingdom as well as for US, these are very, very strong and potent eclipses. Nuclear power plant accident happened in Argentina at the time. But at the same time, this is a series which is known for official breakthroughs in internet, known for breakthrough in innovation to some extent. There are changes which happen which are very, very innovative in nature. So for example, the Microsoft Word was launched for the first time. Mario Brothers game was launched. Challenger space launch happened at the time. So it's a different, because those eclipses happened in Gemini and Sagittarius at the time in 1983. But innovation is a part of these eclipses, apart from unstable forced actions to some extent, which are related to aggression, protectionism. If we go back to 30th of May 1965, again, I'm following the Ceros series 127. You can Google it and see it very easily. The nodal activation of that happened on 18th of August 1965 when Project Starlight was initiated. Vietnam War was initiated at the time. 20th of May 1947, the first years of Cold War, IMF was formed at the time. So India-Pakistan freedom was achieved at the time. There are things that are done which are dramatic in nature. We had 9th of May 1929, start of Great Depression and the stock market crash. They're dramatic events that happen as a result of this series from a global events perspective, and we'll see that in the coming months. In my view, the activation of that fully will happen 29th of October 2019, but we'll see the seeds of that come about this month. The second eclipse of 16th or 17th of July will be taking a handover from this one, which becomes the time for structure, plan and reality check. We will be looking at something in the face around 16th or 17th of July when this eclipse happens at 24 degree of Capricorn. A full moon always reveals some reality to us. Some amount of truth always comes up. And in case of a sign of Capricorn, it has to do with something that is very core to ourselves, that's very integral, that is to do with the structure, the very frame of our life. Here we are very, very achievement oriented. We want a manifestation, and this full moon brings something to fruition, something to completion, something to conclusion. And we might have thought that it sort of concluded on 22nd or 23rd of March 2019, but now another phase of it comes through. We see need for structure, need for plan, a result of a precise plan that we might have done in March of 2019. For example, the Mueller report is done in detail, gone deeper into, we might have done something like that where we've gone over something meticulously to decide something, to move forward on something. Now becomes the time to take it forward. This is the judgment time. This is the reality in the time. This is the time when we have to yield results to something that will last over a long period of time. There's a maturation of something, there's a rubber stamping, a formalization that happens, for example, of a job or sort of a role or a responsibility or the rules of the games. They are getting finalized right now, and it's a very achievement oriented eclipse. It's very resourceful. There is no wastage required here. We split out what's of value to us moving forward and what sort of is junk. It has a purification, a purgative influence on our life. We decide what we want to commit to. At 24 degree of Capricorn, this is known in Samian astrology as, or depicted in Samian astrology as, a woman entering a convent. There's a total commitment to a goal, surrendering to karma, to a higher law. It is very, very karmic. Capricorn full moon, which is an eclipse, is very karmic, very fated in nature. It's sort of decided. This is decided. This is the decision. We make sense of our experience in a more mature fashion there. We take stock of our life. We come back to what is our truth here. And to some extent, we might walk out. We might decide to walk out on what is ineffective, what is disturbing. If there's a person who is disturbing or ineffective, or a situation is like that, we will be very much driven to walk out of that situation, because this eclipse comes with a release. There is a release of a circumstance that is holding our power back with it. It is about finding your purpose and dedicating yourself to it. For example, Oprah Winfrey's Chiron is there. So healing is the purpose of our life. And to some people, that may not be a true reason to run your life. It may not be a purpose that is good enough, but to her it was. And she made it her mission. So finding out what is your calling and dedicating yourself to it becomes the theme of that full moon, a fruition of that full moon. There is a clear change in a life structure. The organization of our life it changes with it. What we organize our life around, what is the belief, the mission around which we organize our life, that changes with that eclipse in a very significant fashion, and it is not to be taken lightly. The effects are very dramatic. There's sudden striking change which happen within the 4 weeks of that. And in the global events, this will be very dramatic in my view. You will see that pan out in the things that are ruled by Capricorn globally, which is head of states, governments, hierarchy, order, structure, long-term and permanent shifts in that. Large corporations, the CEOs of large corporations. These are the themes normally ruled by the sign of Capricorn. We'll see physical events happen as a result of Capricorn eclipse, and we'll start seeing them from the start of this month itself, because the eclipse starts showing up a few days before it happens. So even though the exact dates are 16th and 17th of July, the physical events in terms of the natural changes in the surface of Earth will happen before that, because Capricorn rules Earth. It's an Earth sign. So we can see some amount of earthquakes, seismic activity is seen when eclipses happen in the sign. Mudslides, drought, avalanche, or floods, extreme weathers are ruled by the eclipses in the sign. Industries We will see an industry, and it's a south node eclipse. So we'll see a loss in the industries ruled by Capricorn, which means there is a release of certain industry players which are not doing well. For example, it could be related to real estate, some of the real estate agencies. We can see some changes in the housing market as a result of that. If there are large corporations, monopolies, which are not justifying their size, we might see the effort to break them up. And we might see success in that direction. There might have been orders that came about, thoughts that came out before, but now we see physical manifestation of that. Similarly, the fight is between small corporations versus large, because there's a polarity at play here. So in global events, we'll see the polarity between what is right for my people and what is right for the corporations, what is right for the security of my people and what is right for the stock market, what is right for my children, what is right for the people in my life, the emotional elements of my life, and what is good for the practical elements of my life, what are good for the emotional well being of me, what is good for the monetary aspect of my life, what is good for the resources, the earth elements of my life. So we'll see that polarity at play, and there is a giving away of something material here in order to manifest something that is closer to your heart, that gives you more emotional stability, that gives more protection to your family and protection to the country that we are part of. So we'll see that the warnings for this month, and I'm sorry to say I have to give you the warnings because eclipses are very strong physically. These eclipses especially are very, very strong. Cracks and shattering objects. So protect your instruments or the glasses around this time. 16th, 17th of July and 2nd or 3rd of July is more of a water driven eclipse, but especially around 17th or 16th of July, around that eclipse, protect the musical instruments if you have from moisture changes. We can expect weather extremes, dramatic weather extremes. It's either drought or it's flooding, avalanches, landslides. We can see certain sudden and final verdicts in terms of the authority changes. So bosses could change, landlord, or even if you're not in a profession, the authority of your life in some ways. It could be a person who's the authority in your life, for example, a father or a mother. There can be changes, dramatic and final sudden changes in their life. There could be strains and pipes in concrete and roots. So be careful in terms of your houses around that time. It's better to not be on height when Capricorn eclipse happens. So I don't really suggest mountain climbing or climbing a ladder around 16th or 17th of July. Being a little bit careful. The earth's surface is prone to change. So seismic activity goes up, earthquake risk are higher. Certain changes in the CEOs, head of states, restructure of government, certain power shifts would be seen. If you're part of an organization, you'll see in general authority figures will be changing. They might look a little bit harsher at that time. And it doesn't matter which sign you are, it's what's happening at a macro level around you. So government environmental fights will be seen, doing things which are good for the government or their money versus what's good for the environment. We'll see those fights come about. In terms of the medical warnings, because eclipses are very physically strong felt, so we have some sensitive points in our body that you want to be careful about. The number one thing when we have a Capricorn eclipse is to take care of your nutritional deficiency that month. So if there is anything which is borderline, we are lower on vitamin D, most of us are lower on vitamin D, or anything that we are a little bit low on, especially vitamin D, I say, because it affects the bones, and this eclipse affects our bones, ligaments, tendons, the connective tissues. So if you take any of those things, you want to up the dose or be careful in terms of taking it regularly if you're required to take some amount of supplementation under a doctor's instructions. Nutritional deficiencies, they become worse in the face of the eclipse in Capricorn. You want to be careful if you're pregnant, in terms of handling things with care, not climbing anything, being careful just a few days before and after the eclipse, especially the second one, which is happening around 16th or 17th of July. If you have children, you want to be careful in terms of their nutritional needs around that time. For Cancer ruled parts of the body, which are going to be impacted in my view around 2nd or 3rd of July, and I already see that in my Cancer kid. Gums is a part of that, swelling in the gums, water retention in the body. Breasts are more tender. Uterus, breast, the feminine parts are more impacted under the Cancer eclipse, which is happening on 2nd or 3rd of July. You want to be away from any heavy foods around the eclipse, especially the second one around 16th or 17th of July. I prefer to fast, but you can just choose to not eat heavy things around that time. So that is the overall view of the eclipses. I'm sorry it was a bit long, but it affects a long period of our life and they are dramatic in nature. Now let's get into your sign to look at what area of your life we can look at initiating something new, where we can see certain releases, and we look at specific degrees to figure out who would be most impacted now. And you should check your rising, your sun and moon, because eclipses are very potent. So check all three of them if you can, in that order. Your rising sign or ascendant, your sun sign or moon sign. And if you know how this eclipse interacts with your personal chart. So for example, if the eclipse falls on your Venus, the eclipse falls on your Mars, how would that pan out? I had created a separate video for that, which I'll put the link in the comment section for you to go to, and you can click on the planet to check how the eclipse will pan out for you if it falls on a specific planet. So now let's dig into individual sign now.